spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. New York, New York, these vagabond shoes are longing to stray right through the very heart of it. New York, New York, I want to wake up in a city that doesn't sleep and find I'm king of the hill, top of the heap. These little town blues are melting away. I'll make a brand new start of it in old New York. If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York.
Okay, welcome, a warm welcome to all our guests, our staff and our Pinnacles. This is our first Pinnacle Global Citizen event for 2021, and my name is Anja Olofsson. I'm a fourth year Pinnacle student and your host today. We have some house rules as always. Please keep your mics muted and your camera switched off. Please feel free to post any questions in the chat box or raise your hand if you'd like to speak with us. And we just trust that today there won't be any technical issues, especially with the US having been hit by the terrible storms and Hurricane Ida. And our thoughts and prayers go out to anybody that has been affected by this. Okay, before we get started with our speaker, we are honored to have Professor Barbara Porco, the Associate Dean of Graduate Studies and Executive Director for the Center of Professional Accounting Practices, as well as Mr. David Powell, the Chief Executive of the Chartered Accountants Worldwide Network USA, present today, all the way from New York. And as well, we have our Professor Amanda Singleton, our Head of Department, joining us. Please, could I ask Professor Barbara Porco, can we start with you? If you just show your face and say hello to everybody here.
Welcome. Thank you so much for inviting us. We are honored to be part of this exciting initiative. So I just want to welcome everyone. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. David Powell, please. Also, a warm welcome from you.
Thank you. And as you said, I'm David Powell. I'm from Wales. I'm living now just south of Boston in Massachusetts. I'm a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, and as you said, the Chief Executive of Chartered Accountants Worldwide Network USA. Our focus is on networking and education for chartered accountants living and working in the United States, but it's also a little bit more global. We've had attendees from about 18 different countries attend our events to date, and we're in turn part of Chartered Accountants Worldwide, who are also partnering with One Young World that Jessica and I have been talking about to focus on the needs and aspirations of students and recently qualified chartered accountants globally. So everybody's welcome to visit our websites and attend online events and watch webinars we've recorded. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
No, thank you. Thank you. We'll definitely take you up on that invitation. And then Professor Singleton, please show your face for us today. Thank you. Welcome. You're on mute, Professor.
You see, I'm trying to multitask and I'm not achieving that. Good afternoon to everybody and all the colleagues from around the globe. It's just amazing what technology can enable us to achieve. We on in different timescales, different parts of the world, and yet we are able to collaborate and expand our networks so much beyond the borders. And I think that's exactly what we aim to achieve with today's session is just to illustrate how those networks can be expanded. So I really want to thank the colleagues from Fordham and from the CAW for partnering with us on this, and I look forward to seeing what developments might arise in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to our guest speaker for today, Mrs. Natasha Holbeck. And thereafter, we will have our panel discussion with our students from both Fordham and Nelson Mandela University. Obviously, everybody has been sent videos regarding both universities just to familiarize yourself and see what they look like. Okay, to introduce you, Ms. Natasha, some years ago, a student sat on South Campus at university here in Port Elizabeth with a desire to be a chartered accountant. After graduating, she joined Deloitte, and today she is the psycho rep, as well as the Chartered Accountants Worldwide Rep in Canada, the USA, and the Caribbean. That is quite a CV. Ms. Natasha Holbeck, we are so privileged to have you share your journey with us, and we know it will inspire us to greatness. I hand over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anya, and thank you to the host school. I am very, very excited to be here today. I'm very excited specifically to talk to some of you students, because as Anya just mentioned, I sat in your seats, and it was a very, very long time ago. So that was way back in 1994 when it was still UPE. And I was very fortunate to be able to go to the university. I was the recipient of a sponsorship from the Kellogg Foundation in the United States. And it was a fantastic time, and I was there from 1994 to 1998, and I still have a lot of fun memories of going to school there, and many of my friends are scattered all around the world, and I hope that you guys have the same kind of wonderful journey. So I'm going to go through a little bit about my story, but I really want to take as much time as possible to answer questions, because I'm sure you have many questions. And I know we didn't have this opportunity to speak to someone that was living and working in another country and had made it big outside of the country. So without further ado, I will mention one thing that was very instrumental to me, and maybe you guys have heard of an organization called ISEC. But when I was at varsity, I was extremely involved in ISEC, the Association of International Students Interested in Economics and Commerce. And that actually initially spurred on my desire for community support, as well as international travel. It allowed me to meet people from different countries that were studying the same things. I actually loved and chose this particular picture because many times people think that what we do is purely numbers based, and what we do is mostly taxes. I tell you, I don't do my own taxes. I still pay someone else to do that for me. So it's a little bit funny and tongue in cheek that I put that out there, because the reality is that most of what I do and what you will do if you become chartered accountants is actually engage with the world and engage with people. And yes, there'll be some interesting, wonderful financial transactions and big corporate events that you'll work through, but none of that will make any sense if you don't have great relationships with people. And so that is the one thing I will leave with you, is that yes, of course it's important to have the underlying ability to be a technical competent accountant, but if you don't have the skills and the soft skills to do that and be able to communicate with people from different backgrounds and work in different environments, I think it'll be a little bit harder for you to be significantly successful. So as Anya mentioned, I did go to Deloitte, but I will say my dad gave me some advice as I was going through college. Deloitte was the first company that I went to do VAC work for in my second year, and they gave me an offer, and he said, hold on, don't sign. You got to make sure that this is the right company. And so over the next couple of years, as I was finishing my studies at UPE, I did complete some internships at PwC, as well as EY, and KPMG was actually doing the audits for ISEC back then when I was the vice president and president of the local UPE chapter. So I did have all of that experience and exposure, and they're all great firms, so I'm not bashing anyone by any means. A lot of my friends went to Big Four. I just always still felt comfortable at Deloitte, and it just felt like the place that was home to me. So hopefully you guys, some of you, I know some of you are at different stages of your career, but hopefully you are starting to find the place that feels like home and the place that you feel you'll be able to be most successful. Now, after articles, many people back then were going to London. That was the natural track that people were following. And I honestly didn't really want to do it because there were so many South Africans, and I felt like I really wanted to explore something different where I could learn and be with other cultures as well. Some other friends of mine actually also went to the Cayman Islands. Oops, pictures are in the wrong area here. The Grand Cayman Islands. But for me, I first landed in this little place called Miami, Florida. So in 2002, I was selected to participate in what they called the just-in-time secondment. So it was a 3-month secondment down to the Miami, Florida area, and it was amazing. I just had, as you can tell, it was right by the water. It was absolutely beautiful, but I got to work on these really cool big teams and big engagements. So the 2 big ones for me were Mount Sinai Hospital, that was right on Miami Beach. My husband still tells the story of him coming to visit me and me picking him up at the airport, dropping him off at Miami Beach and telling him I'd be back at 8 o'clock to pick him up on his first day, because I had to get back to work and I was trying to figure it all out. But he loved it and was open to exploring and broadening his horizons as much as I did. The other company that I worked on was Office Depot, and a very large company here as well, a public company, and gave me some perspective on what it's like to be in some of those really, really large teams, because, you know, I had grown up in the PE office, so a smaller office relatively speaking. Then I had to go back. I had to come back to PE because I had signed on a contract to be a manager. So one of the differences I will point out between the US and South Africa, articles are 3 years, and generally after your 3 years articles in South Africa, you tend to move on, either go somewhere else or you're invited to stay as manager. For us in the US, generally speaking, it takes a little bit longer. The equivalent of articles period is a little bit shorter. It's only 2 years before you are able to apply for your license, assuming you have your exams underway. But in order to make manager, it's a 5-year period. So just a little bit different. Things are on a different track, but they're so different, and don't let that dissuade you, because it doesn't stop you from still being and doing all the wonderful, exciting, interesting things that are important to your personal career development. So what happened for me? I went back, and immediately I wanted to come back to the US, because when we were in the US the first time, we had traveled all the way around. We had gone to California, Las Vegas, New York. We even stopped over in London as well. But New York just had that pull. There is something to be said for the energy that you feel at walking on Broadway, or walking on Fifth Avenue, or walking on Park Avenue. It is just electric. And so in 2003, my husband and I decided we were coming back and we were going to move. So we literally changed our wedding date, got married, and planned a wedding and had it for 250 people. I planned it within 3 weeks, and then got in a plane and started fresh. And it was the most nerve-wracking, but the most exciting experience of my life. And we haven't looked back. So that was back in 2003. And we're here now, still 18 years later, and we have 3 children, a puppy. And anyway, I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But the first thing I will talk about, since we are talking about chartered accountants, is I came over and I was a chartered accountant, but because I was working in a public accounting firm, it was important that I also be a CPA. So back then, things were a little bit different and the rules have changed. So when I took the CPA, I had to take the full exam. So I basically had to do what every other American graduate does when they're done with college and they start working. They have to take 4 different exams. So I had to find a state. So the one thing that I will mention is that while it is the United States of America, in many instances, the states are actually different. And this is one of those things where the states have different requirements for education. So for me, with my background and the degree that I had gotten, it was easier for me to just fly to Colorado and take the exam there. And it had nothing to do with the quality of the education or any of that. It had to do with the courses that I took, because I only had business and accounting and economics courses. I didn't have any liberal arts, and it's a big focus on many of the schools here, at least it was back then. So anyway, off I flew, went to Colorado in November of 2003 to take the exams. And it was the last exam that they actually did using a pencil. That's how old I am right now. I guess I'm dating myself, because right after that they changed and everything became a computerized exam. Things are so much more different now, and a little bit easier and less expensive for people that are coming over right now. CICA has for many years campaigned and worked with the AICPA, as well as this organization called ACAWS, that has rebranded and is part of, is now called CAW Network USA. And David Powell was on earlier introducing himself. David himself was actually one of the gentlemen that was campaigning for years to help countries like South Africa be able to get reciprocity for their members and have an easier path. And so about a year ago, it was finally, the mutual recognition agreement was finally signed. And so there's an easier path for those CAs that are coming from South Africa and want to become CPAs in the US. So if that's ever something that's in your future that you are thinking about, as David said, please feel free to go and take a look at the CAW Network USA website. I've actually been a part of that organization since, I want to say 2010 is when I became very actively involved, and I've had many different roles in that organization, starting with more at the local New York level. I was the New York City chapter lead for a while. And then I moved on to the board, and I was asked to be the secretary, then the vice president, and right now my most current role is that I'm the CICA representative. And as David mentioned, this organization is really about learning and education and support for CAs that are coming from South Africa, Australia, England and Wales, Ireland, Scotland, New Zealand, and Canada. So a wide variety of professionals. There are about 8,000 registered members here in the US that have a support network. So again, if you ever find yourself coming to the US and wanting to explore opportunities, this has been a wonderful organization that will provide support to help you be your best self and be as successful as possible, because we do believe in the brand of the Chartered Accountant, which is why we chose to become members of the Chartered Accountants Worldwide Network, USA, and it's a wonderful organization. So, but I'll stop talking about that. About a year ago, I was also asked to run for board counsel for CICA. So since last year, I was elected to be the representative or the international representative for members, CICA members living in the US area, Canada, Bermuda, the Cayman Islands. And while COVID certainly put a little bit of a hamper on the types of things that one would normally do when you're setting up new organizations and committees in different countries, the primary thing I wanted to do was make sure that we had a network in each of those locations. And so very happy to indicate that we do have a committee in Canada that is up and running. We have a committee in the Cayman Islands that's up and running, as well as Bermuda. And so the idea is that that committee will help connect CICA members with CICA in South Africa and help support the interests. And so again, that's another way for if you were a CICA member and you find yourself living in any one of those regions. And in fact, some of the other regions that they have a different international representative for would be the Asia Pac region. So there's people that are individuals responsible for that, as well as EMEA as well. So CICA has done a lot within the last, I would say, 4 or 5 years to really make sure that they broaden their outreach and connect with their members that are international, so that everyone can feel like you're still a part of a part of the brand. What else can I tell you? I did mention that I am a mom. I have 3 children, and it's been great. It's been fun these last 18 months, certainly. I don't live in New York anymore, but I still work in New York, but I live in this town called Somerset, New Jersey. It's about an hour away from New York and an hour away from Philadelphia, which gives me a great location. And some of you might say, wow, that's quite a commute. And that's one of the other things that I had to get used to coming from PE, is that, you know, in PE, you can get in there for 30 minutes. But here, it's an hour and a half in the morning to work. I were going into work. That's all I had. I'm happy to take questions. I don't know if there were any questions in the chat right now, but we can certainly, if you want to just come off of mute and start asking questions, happy to take any and all questions.
Yes, no questions as of yet, but I would definitely let you know if there are any. Yeah, please, if anybody has any questions, please pop them in the chat or raise your hand, and we'll be happy to answer them for you. Otherwise, Natasha, if you would like to continue, you're more than welcome to. Otherwise, we'll be closing off.
Give it a minute and see. Maybe there's some shy folk out there.
The typing skills might not be as fast as we'd like them to be. I think a question from me, while we wait. Would you say that America is your final choice? You're more than happy there. I know you said you and your husband that was the place. Is New York the ultimate, or is there anything else in the future that you're looking at?
We've never said never to future opportunities. So we're always saying we're open to anything. And so as we are thinking honestly about our retirement and I know that's crazy to say this, but in about 10, 15 years, we would say we would go to the Caribbean, or we would go to Europe. I'm leaning Caribbean. My husband is leaning to, you know, he wants to go to the Mediterranean. So we'll see. But right now, we're just trying to get all of our kids through college. And let me tell you, that is another thing that is so different. You know, again, in South Africa, there's more colleges now than there were when I was, you know, when I was coming up. There weren't very many options. You went to UPE, you went to UCT, you went to UND, you went to Rupert. Here, the sheer breadth of the number of colleges and universities that's available, it's a little bit overwhelming. So it's tough. But I think there's a lot of opportunity, and that's why we enjoy being here. So hopefully that answers your question. So I see a couple of questions coming in here. I see Duan is asking whether Deloitte would be the best option for South African students to do their articles. I would say actually there are many international firms. So it's not even just the Big Four that do have programs that enable you to, once you are qualified, to come to the US. So I believe, so all of the Big Four have it. And then I think you also have Grant Thornton, you've got, oh, now I'm drawing a blank, but there's a couple of other bigger ones that have international connections. And so absolutely, you know, it doesn't only have to be Big Four. And then next question from Carla, in terms of deciding to work in a different country and deciding to leave South Africa, what advice would you give on deciding which country one would like to work in? Well, I mean, it really depends on personal choice, right? I was very clear I didn't want to go to the UK, and part of it was reconfirmed when I visited the UK. Love the place. My cousins live there. Love London, but it gets very dark. Sorry, David, I know you're from that side of the world, but during winter and fall, it is so dreary and miserable. I need sunlight. So while the weather is very different and it gets much colder here, you still have bright blue skies. And so that's important for my mental health, is that I need to be able to be in an environment that has the kind of weather that I could live in. So it really is going to come down to a personal choice. I also know a lot of people that have gone to Australia and New Zealand have gone on to be extremely successful and have enjoyed it. that climate tends to be a little bit closer to what you're used to in South Africa. So, all right, I see I'm missing a couple of questions. Yeah. What made it easier for you to transition into the culture of the new country? So, you know, landing in New York was lucky because it is a melting pot of so many different cultures, and it actually made it easier because it wasn't like there was this one settled way of doing it. Now that I live in New Jersey, I can see that a little bit more. But when we first moved to New York and we lived in Brooklyn for 5 years, we just surrounded by so many expats, and so everyone was just figuring it out, literally, and figuring it out on their own and by themselves, and the friends became your family. You know, when I had my daughter, one of my best friends was the one that, you know, drove me from the hospital because we didn't have any family, so that was there. So the fact that I had a husband who was supportive and was open to new ideas, and then the location that I chose, I think made a big difference in how easy it was for me to settle in. That doesn't say that it's all going to be super easy, because you absolutely are going to miss your family. And certainly these last 18 months have been horrendous with what we've all had to go through and miss at home because we weren't able to travel. But again, it comes down to personal choice, whether this is something that you can make work for you. Let's see. Is it easier for CAs to immigrate to Europe without the same type of conversion to be a CPA in the USA? I don't know if my information is current. So it used to be in the past that you could have, you could practice in the UK much easier. I don't feel qualified to answer the question whether or not that is still the case today. Possibly, but I don't know. Let's see, do I have any other questions here?
Doesn't look like it at the moment. I think we've answered all the current ones. But thank you so much. I think it was very insightful for so many, especially because I think the possibility of going overseas is very current, and I think a big decision for most of us at this age. Not that it's better anywhere else, but I think it's something that needs to be thought of in terms of if you get a better opportunity, I mean, you need to take it. So yeah, thank you very much for explaining that whole process, and really having the psycho support on that side, I think would just be very comforting to most of us for if we wanted to make that leap. So thank you very much.
Sure, no problem. It looks like there's one more question that came in here, and the process, it really is, and this is actually sadly one of the questions that comes to David all the time, because he's the executive director for CAW Network USA, and so he gets a lot of questions around how to move to the US, and unfortunately more recently it's become a little bit harder, right, because of the visa restrictions with, you know, as political environments change, some of the rules change. It still is preferable and highly desirable for you to first get your qualification in South Africa. Have that qualification. It is like a passport. And then if you are at a company that does have the global mobility, then you can apply to one of their programs and you'll be able to have the chance to go and see what it's like. And it's not for everyone. I will tell you, there have been people that I did my just in time with, my session. Many of them have returned and are back in South Africa doing amazing things. So it just depends on your own personal situation. There are some organizations that now also specialize in bringing students or CPA candidates, bringing them from South Africa to the US. I've heard of those. I'm not familiar with them intimately, but I know that there are organizations that do that now, particularly to help with what we call our busy season. So from January to, I would say, end of March, that's when all the public companies need to file their financial statements, their audited financial statements. And so it's for every public accountant, it is super busy during those periods of time. So we always need more bodies just to help get through. And most of the companies have found that engaging with CPAs CAs from South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, from the UK, you bring in quality candidates, because it's a very, very rigorous education that you guys are going through. And this is why I haven't given up yet. I don't need it, but I'm keeping it because it took a lot of sweat, blood, and tears to get my qualification. And it is recognized. And our hope is that it'll continue to build the brand and support the brand, and make sure that everyone understands what it means to be a chartered accountant. So there are a lot of opportunities. Just, I guess, for now, focus on getting the designation, and then you will find a way. If it's meant to be, you will find a way. I think that's it. Yes. And I think we are about at time. So Mrs. Raper doesn't need to yell at me. I'm good.
No, not at all. Thank you so much. I'm just going to hand over to Carmel real quick to just give a word of thanks to you.
Thank you, Natasha, so much for sharing your journey with us. It was truly inspiring and informative. And I really just think it's so important that you reminded us that relationships are really more important than just our academic knowledge. So I know we've all taken something special from what you've said today. And again, would like to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to speak to us. And on behalf of all the Pinnacles and the Pinnacle Leadership Program, we greatly appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thanks, Carmel. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so this means we can move on to our panel for this afternoon, this morning. So Emma, you can show yourself so long. Avel, you can show yourself. Carmel and Siba, they will be joining us. And we will just be having a little casual conversation and finding out the differences. Please, if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat or raise your hand and we'll accommodate you as it is needed. Okay, so I'm going to start off and just going to ask each student here to just tell me your name, with your specific degree and what year you're in. And yes, we'll start with you, Avel.
Hi everyone, my name is Avel. I'm a MSA student, so that means I'm pursuing my master's right now, my last semester of school. Last semester I graduated from Fordham undergrad as well, so pursuing accounting, and that's me.
Thank you. Emma.
Hello everyone, my name is Emma Khamagiraiki. I'm currently attending my Master's of Science program in accounting at the graduate school at Fordham University, and this is my first semester.
Perfect, thank you. So interesting. Carmel.
Hi everyone, I'm Carmel Chanlock and I'm currently in my CTA or postgraduate year in accounting, and yes, final year, so my 5th year.
Thank you. Siba.
Hello everyone, my name is Siba Balwe Mbini, Siba for short. I'm currently doing my BCom in Accounting Sciences with Computer Science and Information Systems undergrad. And what else did I forget? I think that is pretty much it, I had to say. I'm in my 3rd year, yes, 3rd year out of 4, yes.
Yeah, they all feel so long, but we're all so close to the end. Yes, so thank you for joining us. And yeah, I'll ask a few questions and I'll direct them to either Fordham or NMU, and then please feel free to share with us what you all know. Okay, starting off, and we'll start off with NMU, Carmel. So due to the various levels of COVID-19 restrictions across the world, do your lectures and assessments take place virtually or on campus?
So currently we are mainly online. So we have pre-recorded as well as live lectures, and then sometimes we write tests where we are invigilated over Zoom. And then if the lockdown levels permit, we then are able to go on campus to write our tests and exams. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. From Fordham, what do you guys do different?
Well, this year the classes are mostly in person, but we do have to wear a mask during class, just for safety reasons, of course. But Fordham has done a great job in facilitating students that were not able to attend in person. So there's still hybrid programs, and also there are opportunities to either take the exam online. So for some of my classes, even if they're in person, we can still take the exam through Blackboard, through our online portal, and just allow other students that were not able to attend in person to actually follow our path, in our schedule throughout the semester.
Okay, that's very nice that I think nowadays to accommodate both online, I think online is a bigger feature now than it's ever been before. So thank you. On to the next question. Okay, what is the process to qualify as a chartered accountant or CPA, obviously in Fordham? For example, what are your modules in your degree and how long is your degree and traineeship? Starting with Fordham.
Okay, so typically the route you have to take is you have to complete 150 credits, and usually that would consist of either taking a 4-year bachelor's degree, BS in accounting. Your coursework would probably include various accounting classes, audit, intro to tax, corporate tax, and things of that sort. And then to complete, because a 4-year degree is usually 120 credits. You'd either complete an extra year of undergrad or complete a 5 years master's program and reset requirement. And then after that, you sit for the CPA exams, which is a 4-part test. Each part consists of a 4-hour exam with various different topics. And then once you do pass your exams, you would have to work underneath an already licensed professional, like CPA, for either 1 year full time or 2 years part time, and then you're all set.
Cool. Wow, so that's quite a process, yes. And NMU?
So in terms of NMU, there are 2 paths. We have the 3-year undergrad, which is the normal path that most people take. And then we have the 4-year undergrad, which you usually have an extra master in terms of like computer science, economics, or law. And usually most people have 6 modules a semester. Towards the end, it's cut down to 4, where we focus mainly on our big 4 modules like accounting, taxation, MANAC, and auditing. And then we move on to 1-year honors, or as it's better known, I think now, the certificate in the theory of accounting, where we do the 1-year honors. And then we move on to our 3-year traineeship with a firm or in public service, depends what path you really want to take. And at the beginning of the 3-year, you have your first big board exam, which is the initial test of competency. And towards the end, you have another big board exam, which is the assessment of professional competencies, which is where they finally just make sure that you're really prepared to go out into the working field. And that's pretty much the path that we have.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, our third question. How competitive is the job market for CAs or CPAs in America? And what type of preparations do you do to stand out in this job market, specifically for you, Fordham?
Well, I think throughout the years, the job market has become, increasingly competitive just because the skills that we need to have increased throughout the years. And you can never be too prepared, I feel like. You could always work on both your hard skills and your soft skills. So when it comes to hard skills, it's important to take advantage of student programs that offer, Excel classes, Python classes, or if there are other courses throughout the semester, specifically taxation, auditing, don't just follow the course to take a grade, It's important to also learn through it because you're going to use it for your exams in the future. So it's good to actually learn throughout the process. But also on the soft skills, the university offers a lot of opportunities for students to take leadership opportunities throughout student organizations. So there is a Women in Business program that we have here. And someone could join the board, and then they could lead and also help other students to give back to the community in a meaningful way, while also learning and working on their soft skills. So it depends on what each person wants to do. But the best way to prepare is to work on both the soft skills and the hard skills.
Completely, yeah. Soft skills are really big, I think, nowadays, and that's what all employers are looking for, is the good soft skills. Thank you. To the next one, how have events like these, and for us NMU students, the Pinnacle program, assisted in developing skills for the working world, for specifically NMU?
Well, the Pinnacle Leadership Program is essentially a community of top achievers in accounting, and it's really great to be part of something that distinguishes us from just being another student on campus. We do mentorship programs with lecturers. We do various outreach programs where we can give back to our communities. We also have events where we can network with other accounting firms, as well as individuals who are so inspiring and making such an impact in the industry. And even just like this event today, we are able to invest in our careers, in our personal development, as well as become a global citizen with reaching out to NYU or New York like today, Fordham University.
Yeah, it's amazing what technology can do. And I mean, who would have thought, like, a while back we'd be able to actually communicate like this and get to know each other from different continents. It's really amazing. Thank you, Carmel. One of our second, third, last questions. We'll start with you, Fordham. How much work do you do each week for your courses, and how much time do you spend, say, per day?
I think this definitely varies person to person, but at least in my experience, anywhere from, I guess as exams approach, anywhere from 20 to 40 hours throughout the week, and that's including, like class time as well as, your individual study time, homework, and then if you're doing any extracurricular activities to kind of, distinguish yourself. So it definitely can vary, but it can definitely add up. But it's not something that's not doable. It's always very, I feel professors are very understanding. So.
Perfect. NMU?
Okay, so in terms of my study schedule for the week and for the day, so I have the extra computer science modules, and that just really pushes my week close to 60, 70 hours a week. I try and spend at least maybe close to 8 hours a day on work, but we have our rest days in the week where we just can focus a little bit more, do extramural activities, maybe go to the gym, have a little bit of a social life, but that's practically a good week where I put in lots of work consistently throughout the semester, yes.
Perfect, yeah, I think we all like, it's just the short-term pain for that long-term gain. I think it'll pay off at the end. So we just need to push this last stretch. Thank you. Second last, are there sufficient available scholarships or bursaries for you to study, or do you have part-time jobs to accommodate that? And then also, how do you balance the whole work and play, the work-life balance? We'll start with NMU. Just a quick little thing. Or we'll just go straight to Fordham. That's perfect.
So for Fordham, I know both Avo and I have had opportunities to actually get scholarships, and they're merit-based scholarships. But I know other people who were also able to get other types of scholarships depending on their background and their situations. So definitely there are opportunities, and the more you research and ask professors, they're always willing to help and guide you throughout the process and support your education. But when it comes to balancing, I think one important thing to know is actually how do you learn best, and also how do you limit yourself throughout the day. So you could have time blocks and schedule yourself, but also know when are you more efficient. So for instance, if you study better during the day in the morning, you could study in the morning and then know that later during the day you could set up 1 or 2 hours to hang out with friends or do things that you like, in a way to take a break and then be more productive in the times that you're more efficient in.
Thank you, thank you. And then I think just a last question from my side, and please, I haven't seen any questions pop up yet, but from the audience, please, if you have any, just shout. Fordham now, what would you typically see? What is your day like as a student, say running from morning? So we've got classes and things, but what does yours specifically look like?
Yeah, so me and Emma kind of have a different setup because I'm a commuter currently, and then she's currently living in Manhattan. So for me personally, right, I'll wake up early in the morning, try to get some self-care in, go for a walk, meditate, stretch, and then take the train, go to campus earlier in the day, and then block out some time to go study in the library for a few hours. Class might come along, and then like after class, maybe I'll go get a bite to eat with some friends, stretch my legs a little bit, because it definitely is kind of hard to just, grind, but you got to make time for yourself too, because it's very easy to, lose yourself in your studies. But yeah, no, and then afterward, probably go study a little bit more, and then, head back home and do it all over again the next day. But yeah, I don't know. Going back to the first question before balancing and stuff, I think it's really important to really if you don't make yourself a priority to, keep, your habits in check and stuff like that too, it's very easy for everything to fall apart because in the heat of battle, when you're stressed out for those last exams, it's a lot harder to fall back on not having structure, But yeah, that's my day.
Perfect. Emma, do you have anything else that might be slightly different in your day?
Well, I focus a lot on background work because I started as an econ major in my undergraduate studies. So a lot of the things that we're learning now, if I need to catch up or really be able to contribute in class, I need to do the background work and revise before class. And I also like to work in groups. So usually I would start by meeting with different classmates, and we would work on questions that we might struggle on so that we prepare better for exams. And also volunteer work and giving back to the community is a large aspect of my day. So as I said, at Fordham, we do a great job at having student clubs that help other students and also increase our network and our opportunities to learn. So, it's important to attend events and also meet students and learn from each other. So apart from classes, I think a large part of what I do throughout the day has to do with community work as well.
Yes, we as Pinnacles as well, that is a large part of our programs to give back and to reach out, to bring a whole holistic view, to the business world. I mean, it's more than just the numbers at the end of the day. Thank you very much. And that is the end of the questions from my side. I'm now going to ask any of you students on our panel, if you have anything that you'd like to ask or mention, please feel free to mention anything. We can start with Fordham.
I have a general question. So how did you guys decide to follow this path? Is there a specific reason? Do you like it so far?
Carmel, can I go for it? Okay. So at a very, very young age, we had a session at school or in high school where we had to look up careers. And I always wanted a career that wouldn't box me in or put me into one box, that would allow me to expand and go into whatever field I wanted. And I saw chartered accountant. They couldn't explain what it was as a job. They were like, it's just a designation. You could do whatever you want. And I was like, this pretty much sounds like what I want to do. And as soon as I found it, I fell in love with it. By matric, I was 100% sure. And now I'm here. I'm really enjoying it. I've added computer science and information systems to it, which I also really quite enjoy and I think will prepare me well for the future. So yes, right now I'm really enjoying the degree, even though it's hard, sleepless nights, but I really am enjoying it right now, yes.
Kamal, do you have anything to add there?
I think very much the same as Siba. I just saw that I wanted to be in the corporate world as a professional in some way. So I thought that the CA would be a really great platform for me. And then with the computer science, I just really enjoyed physics in high school and I wanted to incorporate science into my degree. So I added computer science and I haven't regretted it. So yeah, I'm really glad for that.
Perfect, thank you. And mine will be just a little bit different since I'm doing the law one. I think my reason for that was initially my first choice was computer sciences, but then I realized it might be a little tough. So I went to the law, just as tough though, so it didn't make much of a difference. But I would say the main reason that I went for that is I like the idea of having that background, that legal background that is so necessary in the business world as well. I mean, wherever you go, it's going to be either corporate law or contract law or something like that. And just to know for myself, but also to be able to advise whoever I'm working with, you know, I think it might not be great to be able to go overseas with since, you know, every country's law is different, but I think it's a good starting point. So that's from me, yes. Any other questions from any of you?
I have another question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. It's all good.
So it has to do with what you were talking about, actually. So are you doing both law and accounting at the same time? Or is it just a separate program that could also prepare you for the CA in the future?
So how it starts, so it's also a 4-year degree. And my first 3 years, I start with law. And then only from my second year, I start with accounting. So it's pretty much like 2 majors. So I actually finished with my law modules last year. And this year it's just pure accounting, or the big 4, like Cpas said. And then it's honors. So I can still, it's pretty much still the CA stream. I just have the option to do an additional 2 or 3 years afterwards to get my LLB or my law degree if I would choose to do so, and actually enter that industry if I wanted to. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, this is a question to all of you. I was just curious, like, what where do you guys see yourself? Do you guys see yourself working abroad in the US, or do you guys see yourself more, you know, staying in South Africa? Or...
Yeah, since I'm going to start working next year in the actual auditing field, I am going to do my 3-year articles in Port Elizabeth or Abeja, where we are at the moment. And after those 3 years, I do see myself wanting to go on secondment just to try out a few places and then maybe settling down somewhere. But just, yeah, it's all open, which is just amazing. That's why it's so great to have the CA, because it's all the doors are open, you know.
Yeah, and I just say to add there, that's what I also like about signing with certain firms. They give you that opportunity to do the secondments, to get you to have a feel about what it's like to be abroad, to actually help your decision if you do decide. So I'm looking forward to that as well, to get that experience. Yeah, so if we are ready to end off, nothing from your side, Carmel, Siba, any other questions or mentions that you'd like to do?
Well, just coming off what Abel asked.
Yeah, I have one. Yes.
No, it's okay. I'll just say, Abel, you asked about coming to the UA, well, going abroad. Would you ever consider coming into South Africa, just even for a holiday or work?
Definitely, no, I definitely would. I was lucky enough to study abroad in like January of 2020, and unfortunately got cut short because of COVID. I was in London at the time, and it just, you know, it definitely, I had never really pictured myself like working abroad before that, but now after that experience, I could. So I mentioned to you, you three personally, that I'm studying at EY, and they have a pretty extensive global program too. So if the opportunity were to come my way, I definitely would go and try out South Africa or anywhere else too.
Yeah, you'll definitely have to come and pop in and say hi if you do decide to come this side. Okay, thank you so much. Siba, you still had one though.
Oh, I was gonna ask exactly the same question as Carmel, so she got the question.
Perfect. So great minds, eh? But yes, thank you so much. A really big thank you from our side, everybody, on behalf of everybody. Thank you to Fordham, Abel, Emma. Thank you for giving us the time to answer our questions, and for Carmel and Siba for just joining us and also just sharing in the conversation. I think everybody really appreciated it, and I know I definitely did. And I look forward to actually being able to maybe one day meet you all in person. That would be superb. So yeah, that ends off our panel. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. There's just the last couple of announcements before we close. Firstly, if any Pinnacle or Fordham student wants to engage on a personal level, please forward your email to either Ms. Raper or at Fordham Professor Porco, and then we will facilitate from there. I mean, I think it's great. It's like pen pals, could you say, to just be able to communicate with each other and to keep these contacts for the future, because you never know, we might just come across each other again. Secondly, we also then invite you to attend Chartered Accountants Worldwide USA events, like David mentioned earlier, as part of our journey to becoming future leaders. And Ms. Raper will share for our Pinnacles any other information related to that. Also, our reflections. Please, Pinnacles, send your reflections to Ms. Raper as soon as possible, and any other questions that you might have. And also the Fordham students, please send to your respective departments. I'm sure they would appreciate it too. Yes, and then to end, we are going to end our Pinnacle Global Citizenship event experience by inviting you all to experience our cultural heritage as performed by our university choir. So please enjoy, stay safe, and keep well. Thank you.
soon.